Well, hello and welcome to episode 61 of It's Never Sunny in Seattle, a Seattle Mariners podcast. I'm your host today, Evan James, joined by my co-hosts. As always, we have Michael Ahedo and Andres Jorstad. And pretty exciting times, honestly, in Mariners land today. The team has lost 2 in a row to the Los Angeles Angels, and they got beat by Ohtani last night. But George Kirby pitched incredible once again, really cruising into the home stretch here, looking strong. But we're going to kick off today with the big news, which is that the Mariners are a little beat up across the board. There really isn't anyone who's fully healthy. And obviously, that's the case for most teams, most players at this time of year. But the Mariners have sustained a couple very key injuries at this late hour. And there are some questions as to how they're going to fill in those gaps in the roster, who's going to take those at bats. And the answers are interesting, to say the least. Let me kick it over, I guess, to you first, Sturs. How do you see the Mariners filling in for Eugenio Suarez's spot in particular? And I guess we can caveat this with, I think my expectation is he's not coming back this year. Would you agree with that? I mean, obviously we don't have a firm timeline on the injury, but a fractured index finger doesn't seem like something that is a 3-week heal. What's your read?
I thought I heard that they were going to have him back by the end of the year. I thought that was the latest news.
All I've read is that Shannon said if he can DH before the season is out, that's kind of what they're looking for. I haven't nothing about he's supposed to be ready. And again, that is a 6 to 8 week recovery.
God, that's going to be so tough. Like I don't think anything is a playoff killer because the playoffs are such a crapshoot. Like anything can happen. Like for all we know, Dylan Moore is going to have 5 homers in a series. Like crazy shit happens in the playoffs all the time. So I will be concerned to see them play without Eugenio. I don't think it's like completely unmanageable, but yeah, losing him is like he is literally the team's second best player by WAR. Position player. So, you almost couldn't have a bigger injury sans Julio, who also was a little bit banged up. He was scratched from yesterday's lineup. So to answer the question, I saw that they were having Ty France take grounders at third base, and that's like the one thing I don't want them to do. I would like rather them call up freaking like, I guess Mason McCoy is a shortstop, but like I'd rather them call up like, Jack Mick whatever from AAA than, make Ty France go over there and play third base, because I just don't think that's going to be good for anyone. So ideally it's Toro, it's Dylan Moore. I guess we might as well get into that question now, because that was a question that was asked. It's like, do you trust Dylan Moore to be a third baseman? And that was from Aaron, to avoid Toro being there, which I don't really know if there's a huge difference between Moore and Toro. Like, I don't really care so much who it is between those two guys, but I think either of those two guys is probably going to get the spot, and I think that'll be fine if they don't sustain any other major injuries. Like, if they get Mitch back, if Julio's fine, if France ends up being okay, they can handle a Suarez injury, right? I think they can handle one injury from any of those guys, maybe not Julio. I don't think they can handle 2 or 3. That's kind of where my stance is at this point.
I would agree, but you mentioned something, and I'm going to kick it over to Mikey here. Mikey was breaking news last week when we did this episode, because he correctly called out Mitch Haniger's lower back injury before it actually happened. And pretty remarkable, both that I believe that was Zach Gabell who pointed that out actually in our Discord channel. But Mikey said, hey, yeah, like the downturn looks really severe. Calling that as an injury. He went on the IL that day, or not on the IL, but day-to-day that day, and has not been on the IL yet. Mikey, how concerned are you about kind of the outfield, infield mix right now, and how we're managing some of these injured players?
This is a thing that I talk about a lot, which is like good teams like the Dodgers. I always use them as an example. They have depth. They're able to, a good player goes down, they have a capable player to fill in. Since I picked this pretty arbitrarily, since July, I always struggle with June and July, the numbers, which one's which. Dylan Moore has a 263 xwOBA. Toro has a 250 xwOBA. Both are very, very bad. So for my money, I think generally speaking, you want Dylan Moore at third base because Dylan Moore plays a pretty good third base. Whereas Toro, I think is like all right. Like I actually think that that's where he probably fits best, but not a good defender by any means. So I am very concerned. I kind of disagree with Durs in that I don't think that they have much, margin for error. And losing your second best hitter, like arguably your best, I think Julio is probably the best, but actually I would say he's definitely the best pure hitter. If he could run like Julio, who knows? But yeah, like, I mean, given the list of injuries that we rattled off, I don't know if you can argue that there is a healthy hitter that is also good besides Cal, but Cal has obviously not been good as of late.
He has a thumb injury too. He was off for a day this past week because he jammed his thumb or something.
This is
and
Adam
actually,
Frazier erasure.
I really like Kurt Casale, but I mean, even Julio got hit in the forearm. I don't know if y'all saw that. He's apparently been fine, but it's pretty scary. So yeah, I'm very, very concerned, and I think that if Eugenio is gone, for that length of time, or affected for that length of time, I pretty much think that the Mariners are not making it past the second round. And might not the first round because they don't have a good offense without him. So
I just think it's a little reductive. I mean, obviously one player is impactful, but the rest of the team is good because of everyone else too. It's not just, Eugenio is not the whole team.
Well, let's back it up there because you said the rest of the whole team is good. I would agree with you. The question is the rest of the whole team healthy enough to actually be good? Because we've seen pretty reduced effectiveness from Ty France, from JP Crawford, from Jesse Winker, you name it. And some of those were theoretically healthy names I just mentioned. And obviously even that, like you said, comes with caveats. JP is currently healthy, but he's missed days off recently with back tightness, which seems to be a thing that the whole team is dealing with in some shades. Not uncommon, like you said too, Mikey. Julio getting hit in the wrist is not good. That Julio and Ty France back-to-back wrist peggings before the Santana home run was just a real whirlwind of emotions. Scared the daylights out of me because I think we all are feeling the anxiety that we have. The floor underneath us has shifted a little bit and there's still a safety net, but it's getting real thin. The ice is really thinning underneath the Mariners. And I think we should transition that into talking a little bit about the pitching because as our hitters are maybe not healthy enough to carry the team anymore, their pitching has really come into its own. George Kirby was again dynamite last night. Logan Gilbert pitched well again after our last podcast. I would love to follow up, especially with you, Mikey. What did you see from that Gilbert start and from that Kirby start? Do you have faith that they can continue to be this lockdown, not just for the next 3 starts or so, but going into the first round of the playoffs?
When I watch Gilbert, I'm not like, and to be honest, I don't know actually why, but I've been missing a lot of the games lately. So catching more of the highlights a lot of the time. But in general, I wouldn't say I'm particularly confident in Logan Gilbert. George Kirby, I am. And I guess maybe we can transition to the sweeper talk in a little bit. But like, I don't know. I think we really raved about him last week, but I think George Kirby is legit. I think I think we used the word ace or kind of toyed with the word ace last week. I really think, like, as of right now, I feel much better about Kirby than I do Robbie Ray. And I feel decent about Robbie Ray. I might feel better about him than Luis Castillo in some ways.
George Kirby or Robbie Ray?
Kirby.
Kirby, gotcha.
So yeah, I don't know. I find it really tough to put your eggs in that basket of trusting some really young rookie and sophomore year starting pitchers, to carry the team into the playoffs and or in the playoffs. Um, so yeah, I hesitate to really throw my weight behind Gilbert as of right now, but it seems like the two teams helping a little bit.
This is kind of putting you on the spot, I feel like, but is this the best Mariners rotation in the non-playoff era? Like since the drought started? I think that the arguments you could make, what is it, 2011 was really good, right? That's
Felix Cliffley.
Oh, that was
2011?
2010. Yeah, 2010. So Felix, Cliffley, Vargas was really good at that point. Bedard, that was before they traded him, and he was still doing decently. And then they had Doug Fister, and that was a good 5. And then I'm thinking of more recently the 2014 season, I think, where they had Felix, they had Hisashi Iwakuma. I'm struggling who else was on that squad, but I know that was another good pitching year. So I guess we're kind of going off the cuff here, but this feels like it might be.
I think probably. I mean, I think, yeah, like Kuma wasn't. He was solid, but he wasn't like, he was never like an ace. Yeah, I tend to think the best. This is the best since probably the Cliffley Felix rotation, but even that one, like it wasn't. Like it had. I guess Jason Vargas had a pretty good ERA.
Yeah, he was really good.
I guess
that year.
pretty. It's pretty close with that one because Felix pitched 250 innings. I'm seeing.
Vargas had 250 innings.
No, Felix
no.
did.
Felix did. Yeah.
Jason Vargas does not pitch in 250 innings. Sorry,
I was surprised.
Yeah, they're combining for 11, 14, like 18 WAR as a group. It's their 5th spot that was very not.
We
great,
talking about that year they had
spot.
18 WAR, or this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's only their top 4 that I was counting. Wow, Ryan Roland Smith pitched a lot and for negative 1.5 WAR.
Yeah, he was bad that year. Man. That was really sad too. I remember hearing like so many stories about how he was like putting in so many extra hours too, and he just wasn't seeing results.
Yeah. So, if you gave me a 5-game series with the same, equal lineup, I would take the Mariners' current rotation, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The 14 guys I forgot, I should feel ashamed, are Paxton, Taijuan Walker. Those are the other 2 big names from that year.
And Brandon Maurer. Oh, no.
Well,
yeah. And Brandon Maurer, of course.
I think he was a reliever, wasn't he? I mean, I don't know about that point, but...
Yeah, this was post-implosion. I just remember Brandon Maurer for that one... Because he got the starting job out of spring training that one year, and then he went on to have like a 17 ERA, or like I think they only pitched him 3 times, and he made it something like 6 combined innings and got shelled every time, and that was it. So I remember how quickly that year went off the rails. Honestly,
can we? Are we capable of going an episode without remembering some guys? I don't.
Remembering some guys is a staple of It's Never Sunny in Seattle.
I just think it's funny when you put it in the description of an episode. Like I think you did that with Matthew, and you did it with Jordan Schusterman. I'm like, when do we not remember some guys?
I love remembering some guys.
I know.
To answer your question, Durs, Mikey did, which is that he would pick the current Mariners rotation. I also would. I think they are. The depth of this top 4/5 is much better. A lot of those other teams had, Felix Cliffley is a hell of a 1-2. You're not really going to top that as far as the first 2 in any rotation. But beyond that, I think that this team has a much better rounded rotation. Some quick stats from me as the non-stat guy is that when we did this show last week, the Mariners were ranked, I believe, 19th by WAR in pitching. They are all the way up to 15th, so they have been steadily climbing. And that doesn't sound like much, but
more than that, yeah.
It's not much, but it matters in the context that they have really been stuck at about 20 for most of the year. I've been tracking that since about May, and we kept kind of looking at it, expecting it to go up and like expecting them to be a little bit better, and they kind of really weren't. And they finally have started to move up the board. Consequentially, the hitting has started to slide a little bit. They were down from 7 to 8, and now they're down to 10th. It's not very far off from where they've been the entire year, but it is concerning that it's coinciding with so much injury. It's just kind of uncharted territory for the team in a bunch of ways, being led by the pitching that was not really the cornerstone initially, but now is. And we're going to see, right? We're going to see. There's no other way to put it. We're coming into this home stretch. I think we're all probably really happy that the collective win percentage we're facing is like 386 something. And that's including the Angels, which are one of the better teams because we're playing mostly Detroit and Oakland the rest of the way. And they are deeply pitiful. So, the road ahead is clear, but
right. I don't think the concern so much is getting into the playoffs anymore. Right. I think the concern now is advancing. And I do want to say this is one point I didn't make previously, but Atlanta last year lost a better player and had fewer wins at the end of the season and won the World Series. So, I know losing Suarez hurts, but we have a very recent example of how that doesn't necessarily have to stop a team.
True, but I think Atlanta is a much better built team than the current Mariners are, and they had, who was it? Soler,
Rosario,
two like not very good role, like two WAR role players, pretty much playing like 4 or 5, WAR players. So it's, yeah, I guess that's true, but I do not think that I don't think that's going to happen for the Mariners.
No, I don't either. I'm just saying, shit happens, right? So, anyway, I took us off topic there for a second. I apologize, Evan.
Oh, not at all. I was rambling anyways. But, Mikey, let's talk George and the sweeper. Let's do that.
Yeah. It's actually, it's really interesting. I was looking into some of the day of PitchFX data that I highly prefer Brooks over Savant because Savant defaults to long form movement, which takes into account gravity, whereas short form does not. And I think it's much easier to see kind of what's going on with a pitch if you're looking at the short form movement. So I think we can now categorize Kirby's slider into 3 pitches. The first, which he started the year with, is what Savant now tags as a cutter. Not a good pitch. Gets a lot of lift. Does not, induce a lot of swings and misses. Wasn't really working for him, as that was supposed to be his second pitch. Obviously moved to the sweeper, which also gets a little bit of ride, but huge, horizontal movement. He pretty much just like half the time he would throw that for a ball. Not a lot of whiffs either. I guess more than any other pitch, but not a lot of whiffs. Now he's kind of combining the two, I guess. If I remember correctly, I wish I actually had those graphics still pulled up. He's throwing it with almost the cutter velocity, so probably 87, 88 last night. But without the huge sweep, which I don't think he needs. I think it's helpful, to have that movement, have that sweep, but before you're talking like 14, and it depends on what system you're looking at, but like 14 inches of sweep, per Savant. And so, yeah, he's kind of combining the best of both worlds, where it's like Uh, he was throwing at like 87 miles per hour last night, and with 6 inches of sweep versus 11 on the year, which again takes into account 2 different sliders. So yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of in between the two, but it's more of the sweeper, and I think it is still a sweeper. I was talking to Lucas Apostolaris last night about it, and if you look at like a line of best fit in terms of sweepers, like it probably still fits on that line. But it doesn't have as crazy of movement. In general, I think we should probably consider sweepers more pitches that induce weak contact than ones that are like I'm starting to kind of sour on them and consider them more fad pitches. They can be kind of cheat codes for guys like Kirby and Gilbert who are pronators and struggle throwing good breaking stuff, but he threw a sweeper and he didn't see crazy results. I'm sure his actually I could probably check, but his run value, with a sweeper, I bet was not good. So Kirby's throwing a brand new breaking pitch again. It also got one called strike last night out of 14 pitches and no whiffs. But that does add up to 4 out of 14. That's actually still not very good. He's still, probably trying to get the feel for it, but it doesn't really matter. He throws a sinker and fastball half the time, and the curveball's pretty good. So that is my Kirby update.
Kirby.
It used to be the weekly Robbie Ray update. Now it's the weekly George Kirby update.
Robbie Ray's not that interesting from a pitching perspective, I feel like, because he mostly throws 2 pitches and sometimes gives up home runs and most of the time strikes people out, and that's pretty much the deal, right?
I think early season we were just like, is the velocity going to hold? Was he a fluke last year? We just gave him a fat contract, so hopefully he's good.
So far, so good, right? If nothing else, the Robbie Ray deal has at least worked out for this year. The Mariners needed to make the playoffs.
Right.
They went and got a Cy Young winner. They're going to make the playoffs. You go from there. I think what's really interesting about Kirby is that he has tinkered, but he's tinkered to better effectiveness over time. And I was listening to the Wheelhouse, and Jerry was pretty clear that the Mariners do not assign pitches or grips or arm slots or anything to any of their pitchers. Their general philosophy is guys know how their bodies are supposed to throw. They understand by the time they get here, especially, they've been playing baseball for 10 years. They understand the pitches they can throw, and the Mariners just facilitate them doing what they're going to do anyway. But we've seen a willingness from Kirby to expand and advance and change his repertoire for the better in a way that I don't think we always see pitching prospects, both of his ilk and in general, be effective at. Case in point, Justice Sheffield decided to change his pitch mix, and it turned him into not a major league pitcher. And has virtually not. Has he played actually for the Mariners?
I was going to say, is he still pitching in Tacoma?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't think he's played on the team this year. I think like maybe he got a spot bullpen appearance or something, but like he has not started. Case in point, though. It's interesting to see George really make this work where some of the other Mariners prospects have not. And if there's one thing about the Mariners' recent success that's been rolling over in my head the last week, it's that Evan White, Kyle Lewis, Justice Sheffield, Justin Dunn, that first wave of prospects, we got nothing from virtually. But they all failed together. And then the next wave, everybody failed or everybody was successful at the same time. So it's almost like we dumped one entire wave of the Mariners era and everyone from the next wave coming up was successful. And that's uncommon, right? Like if you were to plan this out, you would think 1 or 2 guys would stick from the first era and 1 or 2 guys would stick from the second era. We've gotten bizarrely lucky in some context with how this is actually like how the dice have actually landed this season. And I don't want that to ever be lost on me. I want to appreciate how well this has gone. So Kirby, Cal, Julio, any of our young players killing it. This rocks. These are the good times, as they would say, right? These are the good times.
I will say, in regards to the Evan White situation, I think that I don't know if that has been written yet, especially given the fact that he's on a contract for the next few years. I also don't think the Kyle Lewis bit has necessarily been written, and these injuries are a perfect excuse to bring up Kyle Lewis, playoff hero, and have him lead this team into the promised land. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but that would be pretty rad. I will say on the Evan White front that there was some conversation going around both on Twitter and in our Discord about Carlos Santana and whether the Mariners should re-sign him to a 1-year deal. And I think that Santana's biggest boon to this squad is his clubhouse presence, his leadership, his bond with Julio. Everyone seems to love him. And his clutch hitting. He hits well when we need him to. He doesn't hit home runs in ones, he hits them in twos. But I don't think that signing him for next year makes a whole lot of sense. I think he's kind of he's going to be a cult figure that we're going to remember for being a part of this squad, and bringing him back next year is like trying to bring Brett Griffey in 2010. It's just doesn't make sense. You're not going to make the good thing last. And I think that spot belongs to Evan White next year.
Mikey, anything on our first wave of prospects?
Well, I think one thing that we can add is that Brandon Williamson probably would have been a whiff too, but we traded him.
Ooh, yeah.
His K rate's way down, right?
Yeah, I actually checked the other day. Trying to think. His like K minus walk percentage was, I don't know, 10 or lower than that. It was very bad.
Don't worry, I'm looking at it right now.
I would guess it's like 15 and 11 or something.
Well, I'm not looking at percentage. I'm just looking at per 9. So his K per 9 last year was 12.56 AA, and his walk per 9 was 3.3 basically. He's doubled his walk rate this year. It's now 6, and his K percentage is almost halved to 7.5.
Go to advanced. I guarantee you it's like 17 and 11 or something like that percent. But yeah, I mean that
it is 17 and 14. 17 and 14.
Yeah, that's really, really bad. That's like a slightly below average K percentage and a walk percentage that's like double average.
His K rate in AA was 25. So this is AAA K rate is 17.5.
With us? Yeah.
No, with Cincy. This year.
Oh, okay. Anyways, so yeah, Fraley has been pretty good, like probably better than Winker. Williamson has been very bad and probably was never a starter. Who's the third person?
Connor Phillips.
Oh, Justin Dunn.
Oh, well, him too.
Oh. Yeah, that doesn't matter. Yeah,
Phillips
so
is,
as far as I'm concerned, it's
Phillips is walking a lot more too. He's walking more batters than Williamson in AA.
But everyone said it was a heist.
Well, I will say that Winker not panning out has hurt. So it's not exactly been a slam dunk for the Mariners, but I also think it's been pretty shitty for the Reds. Mikey, you shook your head when I said Kyle Lewis being a playoff hero. Why'd you do that?
Just because I'm like, God, I don't know.
You want me to give up the ghost?
I feel like his knees are like my grandpa's.
The thing with Kyle Lewis is that, and I've said this several times on both pods now, Scott is big on availability. Scott does not like scratching players once the lineup is set. He doesn't play that way. If you do that twice in a week, he's not going to play you. And we see, not because he's injured, but we see some of this with Taylor Trammell when he was brought back up this last time on September 2nd, whatever. he had 2 games where he looked real bad. And I was kind of mildly devastated by it at the time because I am rooting so hard for Trammell. There is a good spot for him in this organization if he can make it work. And I really believe in the skill set and the talent. He looked real bad. He had just 2 games where he looked way out of sorts, and Scott didn't play him for like 10 days. And that's kind of the way it goes on this team right now with playing time. If you don't hit, you get sat. And you know, the thing with Kyle Lewis is that he needs some reps. It's not going to work giving him the Jake Lamb treatment and giving him 6 at bats a week. It's the same way I feel about Jared. Like I am curious to see what Jared looks like in the majors right now, but letting him hit 2 at bats, play the first 5 innings of a game twice a week is not a recipe for anyone to really develop or for anyone to be successful. And as much as I don't want to see Jake Lamb, we're not worried about scuffling his development now, are we? Right? That's just not where we're at with it. So, yeah, I don't like it. I don't like that. There are Jared and Kyle are 2 players who could very well fit on this team right now. And it just isn't going to happen, right? Like, barring injury, this is the team. I think we should say that. Barring injury, this is the team that is going to be playing in the playoffs, right?
Should we touch on that question? So we did get a question about who makes the postseason roster by Meow Mix. I did a little typing it up on a Google Doc, and the roster shrinks to 26. So I immediately cut Flexen and I cut Trammell. And I assumed health for everyone. So that took Toro off the roster. I think everyone else is not officially in the IL. So just that. And then I made a controversial move. I swapped Jake Lamb with Kyle Lewis, and I called it a playoff roster.
Extremely controversial. Also, the reason why it's not going to happen, actually, above all else, is because they have been playing Jake Lamb at third here and there, and especially with Eugenio out, he's likely going to play
infield. You put
infield.
Dylan Moore at third base. Like, I don't...
True.
I mean, like...
But he's not a lefty. Okay. Especially if you're taking Toro off the roster. Dylan Moore cannot hit against a righty.
Well, Sam Haggerty can do both. He can play third base and he can hit lefty.
Can he play third? Has he played third?
He has played third.
He can play everywhere pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
None of this is good.
But I'm trying to get Kyle Lewis on the roster. I mean, Evan, I thought you'd appreciate
I think you should.
I do. I just, he was pulled the other day just in case they needed him on the team if they were going to put Mitch on the IL, I think. So, like, he is very much on the fringe. He's the first call up, I think. But
and my heart really wants Kelnick on the playoff roster, but I know that's not going to happen.
No.
But
don't do it.
I really want
whatever you do, even if there's a fucking fire, don't fucking do it.
Mikey says I'd rather see Jack Larson back on this squad.
Oh God,
who played one
Cade Marlow.
All right, maybe not Jack Larson. Honestly, I think I might rather have Cade Marlow on the roster right now than Jared Kelnick.
We're jumping ahead of ourselves in the rundown here.
We are. Let's we're talking outfielders right now, kind of, sort of. Let's talk Julio's Rookie of the Year runaway chances, because it really looked like even just a couple of weeks ago that Rushman was gonna run away with it pretty comfortably. And Durs is shaking his head a little bit there because he knows this means that he is the lone dissenter. The rest of us called this all the way back.
All right. So for those of you guys who don't remember or haven't heard us talk about this before, the Lookout Landing staff predicted various things for the season before the season started. And I was the only one brave enough to not pick Julio for Rookie of the Year. The only person out of like 25 people. And I had Jeremy Pena, which looked very smart for like 4 months, like through July. And then Pena just took a freaking nosedive and probably isn't going to be top 3 at this point, which is fine, honestly, because fuck the Astros. But, I'm very happy that Julio seems to be running away with things, because I was very worried about Adley, like not even 3 weeks ago.
And Adley is dope. Like, make no mistake, Julio is going to win Rookie of the Year because he has been a 5-win player and just like blown the doors off. But Rutschman is a 4-win player in his own right, has been arguably the best catcher on a rate basis in the entire Major League Baseball. He's awesome. No shade there. Obviously, Pena also has been really interesting and fun to follow this year. Really exciting prospect in his own right. I think that this has been, I think, my favorite thing to monitor over the course of the year, not just obviously because Julio's done so well, but because it's been like a fun race. And, there's been some interesting challengers in that arena. And I just think it's been really fun. And obviously, Julio's going to win. So, what else could I ask for?
The Mariners playoff roster is going to have 2 recent Rookie of the Years. Kyle Lewis and
oh my
Julio
God.
Rodriguez.
Cutting me deep, Durs. Cutting me deep here.
Wow.
He beat Luis Robert for Rookie of the Year.
That was 2019, right? So that was the
2020. It was the pandemic.
He also beat
season.
Justice Sheffield. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he was the 3rd place guy, wasn't he?
I advocated for him at Lookout Landing.
Ooh. That was back when he threw the 4-seamer though. So that was an entirely different pitcher.
No, right? That was it the shortened season?
Yeah, that was when he did well, right?
No.
Yes. Sheffield was good in 2020.
Okay.
He had a
last
sub-4
year
ERA.
was the collapse. Ooh, yeah, last year. Oof.
So he's only good in half a season.
Yeah, he was good for 10 starts, mind you.
God damn.
There are a lot of mirages in that season's statistics, honestly.
Yeah, that's why I kind of just throw it out, unless I'm combining it with like 2021. But do y'all want to hear a fun fact?
Yes.
Wait. Go ahead.
Okay.
I thought I was gonna guess it.
So in the second half of the season, George Kirby has 2.5 F4 racked up, and it isn't 2 more starts and only 4 more innings pitched, but that is 1.1 more than the next person, who's Luis Castillo. Logan Gilbert in that time frame is tied with Andres Munoz
Oh man.
in WAR,
What, like,
and Robbie Ray's 7th behind
what's that, like
Matt Brash.
0.8 for Gilbert and Munoz?
Like 1.
Okay.
And Robbie Ray's 0.4. So in the second half, 4.12 ERA. And Kirby has pretty much matched Matt Brash in strikeout minus walk percentage. So that's
freaking cool.
It's a lot of facts. That's a lot of facts. But those are my fun facts.
Make Matt Brash start again.
So Mikey, we should pitch you the wild card rotation question, because given that information, let's say let's take Scott and like the veteranness out of the equation. What would you pitch
out in the back and if like I had it my way?
Yes, exactly. Yes. Burger King.
Let's go.
Give me the crown.
I'm going Luis Castillo 1, George Kirby 2,
Marco Gonzalez 3.
I think you still go Ray 3, Gilbert 4, and a fucking Matt Brash and
Yeah, Matt Brash opener.
Chris Flexen or Marco. Piggyback.
I put Marco on my playoff roster just because I don't see a world where they don't have him on the playoff roster, but I don't think he makes sense. Like I think if you
it would be so funny
if you wiped Jerry DiPoto's memory of like all these players and you just put like stats in front of him, Marco would not make the playoff roster. But he's Marco, so he's going to.
Correct. Yeah. Which is okay, right? He's probably only going to pitch if they go into 4 or 5 games, right? So the situation in which Marco, anything is hinging on him, is that the Mariners are in a very competitive series coming down to the wire. And I think I can kind of live with that because, that's what Marco is essentially depth at this point. That's what depth is for. So
Marco is going to get the last out of the World Series, and we're going to see him smile on the field for the first time ever.
It's a great ending to the season. right?
gonna poop his pants. He's gonna poop his diaper. That's what I think's gonna happen.
All right.
Whoa! Do y'all want to hear something crazy?
Hit me with
What?
it.
Whoa! George Kirby is second in starter WAR.
Yeah,
in the
Yes, I
second.
actually looked at this yesterday. He is 0.1 behind Gilbert, and he's probably going to be first on the team.
Oh, I meant in all of MLB.
Oh, and all of MLB. Different.
So in the second half.
wait, can I guess
ahead
who's
of
first?
Spencer Strider. Yeah.
Sandy.
No. Actually,
Oh.
where is he? Maybe he doesn't qualify. Did he get hurt at all?
Sandy?
He did, right?
No, Sandy just doesn't strike guys out, so that probably hurts him.
Oh, yeah.
You say he's ahead of
he's-
Strider?
Yeah. Who's 3?
What is it, like DeGrom or Scherzer, number 1?
DeGrom is 5. Scherzer is 11.
Oh my God, who's number 1?
Zach Gallen.
Oh yeah, I forgot that he threw like 80 scoreless innings in a row.
Yeah, that's my boy. Castillo is 28. Which we'll take. Yeah. So one of the hottest starters in baseball. And like sustained. That's 10 starts of hot-dom. Ace-dom.
Well, Mikey, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. I want you to predict. Let's just assume everyone's healthy between those 4 starters. So we're kicking Marco out of this conversation. What do you
Happy
think is
to do so.
the arrangement in F4 for 2023?
Ooh, I like this. I really like this question. I think so. I'll go Castillo number 1. I think I'll go with Kirby 2, which is a bit of a hot take based on volume.
Right, but you assume next year he'll
Uh,
probably have the leash loosened significantly.
Well, he's at 117 right now. I think you figure what, 5 more starts on the year? Tops?
He could probably get to 180
Like-
next year.
Let's see. So let's go 4. Let's say 4 more starts. That's kind of conservative. 5 innings. That's 20. I'm good at math. So that's about 140. I could see him making a leap to 160, 165, 170 after that. That's a pretty full load for starter nowadays. So, yeah, Kirby number 2. I might go Gilbert number 3 over Ray.
Wow.
And 5 is an starter we have yet to acquire.
Bryce Miller, who we'll get to in a little bit, but
Yeah. Shit.
I high key think one of the most interesting discussions we're going to have this offseason and really going forward is which do we want to save that spot, the 5th spot, for one of our starting prospects? Because we essentially did that this year with Kirby and it worked out so well. Do we, like Bryce Miller?
I think it really
Emerson
depends
Hancock?
on who's left, because I
True.
think a lot of those guys are going to be traded. So I think there's four main starting pitching prospects who are going to be competing for that spot in my mind. Emerson Hancock, Bryce Miller, Taylor Dollard, Prelander Baroa. I think those are going to be the 4 guys who either opening day or by June will be competing for a spot in the rotation. And maybe Brash if they make him start again.
None of those guys have reached AAA, right?
Dollard just got pushed to AAA.
They did? They
What?
promoted him?
Mm-hmm.
When?
I think so.
Like today?
Well, hold on. Maybe I'm just BSing, but I thought I saw that.
I don't know.
The Mariners have been very, very averse to putting their top pitching
No, you're right.
prospects in
You're
AAA. The closest thing, again, we have to that is Justice Sheffield, and they have let him languish there to double-digit ERAs for the most part. So
Yeah, no, they're all in AA.
I just want to say that I need more RAM on my computer. So it doesn't do well with, I have as far as I can see 2 tabs open in Discord. I can't actually see y'all right now because my monitor will just start getting fuzzy and or turn off when it gets overwhelmed. So,
Are you on a laptop?
no, I'm on a desktop.
Oh, we got to upgrade you, Mikey. We got to get you more
Yeah.
power.
Yeah,
But
please help.
to my point, I think of those 4, I think 2 will be traded this winter for whatever it is that they choose to acquire. But I think there's a very good chance that maybe half those guys aren't here. So the question is, let's say the ones left are like Emerson, Hancock, and Prelander, Baroa. Then I don't know if I feel comfortable saving a spot for just those 2. I think if you have those 4, there's a safe bet that one of those 4 is going to take off and be worthy of a spot.
Sorry to segue, but I think this ties into one thing we didn't put on our sheet, but we should talk about, which is the AFL roster. Because you just said, hey, I think some of our prospects are going to get traded. Some of the prospects on the AFL roster certainly appear that they may be there.
That's pretty much what the AFL is for these days, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it's either that or it's guys who got injured and didn't play and are getting reps that they otherwise missed. Like, I actually kind of half expected to see Evan White here, and I don't because he's injured again. So that's how that went.
What do you mean? Again?
Yeah, he hasn't played but it's been like, I guess 11 days now, but he has missed 7 games with the hip injury again. Yeah. Good God. Exactly. Just when it finally seemed like it might be turning a little bit. The thing right now, Evan White, he just needs to play one more game this year, finish the year on a good note, and come back healthy next year because it just hasn't happened this year. But Durs, in terms of the Arizona Fall League roster, is there anyone you are interested in seeing potentially for next year versus for a trade? And Mikey, I definitely want to get your thoughts on Brian Wu as well.
I was going to say the pitching is so interesting in the Arizona Fall League. So let me just list all the names for people that, may not have heard. So the pitchers are Ty Adcock, he's a guy recovering from injury. Jorge Benitez, Adam Matchko, who's another guy I forgot who could potentially be a call up next year. Juan Ten, who's also in the same boat.
Is Matchko Mako?
Yeah, it's spelled Mako, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Matchko.
Interesting.
Brian Wu is the last pitcher, and then we have infielder Jose Caballero, infielder Robert Perez Jr., outfielder Spencer Packard, and outfielder Alberto Rodriguez, who's actually on the 40-man, and I always forget about him. I certainly think that Alberto Rodriguez is an interesting name, not on the pitching side, because he's a 40-man guy, because he was actually fairly highly touted as early as or as recently as the beginning of this season. People were thinking pretty highly of him. He was a guy that we got in the Taiwan Walker trade from Toronto, for those of you that don't remember. And he was best friends with Noelvi Marte, like childhood best friends with Noelvi Marte. So he was probably really bummed when Noelvi got traded to the Reds. But I still think that there's something there for Alberto Rodriguez. And I think if he has like a torrid Arizona Fall League, that'll either be a launching pad for him to continue to improve next season, or the Mariners will use that and try to flip him this winter to try to clear the 40-man spot.
I kind of think there'll be less trading, especially of the top guys than you were kind of saying earlier, especially because they're spread more thin after the Reds trade, right?
Yes. Yeah, especially on the position player side, they're spread particularly thin. It's mostly like youngsters on the position player side in terms of guys that are interesting.
I said Reds trade like there was only one.
Yeah, we knew which one you meant, though.
Yeah.
By the way, Noelvi had 5 hits for Team Spain in his qualifier the other day.
What? Team Spain?
I know. I don't really understand the eligibility. I don't really understand the eligibility rules. I mean, for all we know, he is a grandparent from Spain, but.
Well, he definitely has. Yeah. Fuck Spain.
Anyway.
Mikey, tell us about Brian Wu, who I was pretty sure was coming into the Mariners system as a relief pitcher, but they have used him as a starter over the last couple of months, and he's looked dynamite, and it appears he is going to be further stretched out in the AFL.
Yeah, I'm trying to look. I mean, I'll just go off of like things that Joe Doyle has tweeted. I think he actually probably just in looking at our prospects of the week, they're pretty unimaginative.
Well, I'm sorry, but there's reasons to be excited about all three this week.
Yeah. I think in a normal week, Brian Wu is the type of prospect of the week that you pick. Joe says that a scout next to him had him at 97 in the first, sat 93, 95, 5 Ks through 5, no walks, 1 unearned. Slider command is below average and shape varies. Flash to 50, changeup with parachute and fade, which to me means that it just kind of floats, like it rides. It falls less than you'd think and gets more and gets fade. Yeah, I think a lot like it's really weird when coming up, Taiwan Walker, his thing was like, oh, he's like he could play basketball. Like he's a good basketball player. Like he's a plus athlete. And I was always like, yeah, he's a pitcher though, so that doesn't matter. But it does, because it allows you to, like mechanically get to a lot of movements that other guys might not be able to. And so I kind of think about Brian Wu in that way. I think way back when Joe basically said, he needs to take a step forward with his command. He needs, his breaking pitches need to do the same. But this is basically, I mean, when you look at 6-round picks, like this is as good as it gets. So I think he's in the system probably the third most exciting pitching prospect.
Wow.
Aside from Taylor Dollard and Bryce Miller. I might be forgetting someone. And I'm talking strictly about prospects.
Prelander
No one that has
Broa?
reached the I might be more excited about Wu.
Okay.
I'll have to look. But yeah. I don't have much like in terms of data on him. That's why I don't like prospects as much. Also, Burrow walks a lot of people.
Yeah, he's more of a Matt Brash type.
My screen just turned off, so I can't check how many. Oh, it's back. 9 starts at AA. We're at 17% walks.
Yeah.
That is that's not doable, I think, for a reliever. I think you'd have to strike out half of hitters to make that work. So
should we get to prospect of the week?
Yeah, let's do that and then wrap for today. But yeah.
So I just want to start this by saying that we had intended to do this for a while and we kept forgetting. So I know that now like the minor league seasons are over, it feels kind of silly, but we still want to do it. So just wanted to point that part out. We hopefully it'll be more fun next year when we're actually doing it during the season.
Who's starting?
Why don't you go, Evan?
All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Cade Marlow, and there's not that much to say necessarily. Cade Marlow is a very athletic player. He kind of is more in the utility player, like Ben Gamel type mold to me than anything else, but his speed has really shown up this year. He has, I want to say 38 stolen bases in 2022. He's also paired that with 20 home runs, which is kind of where you've seen Joe Doyle tweeting about him. He's one of the only players in, I think, Mariners history in general to have hit 20 home runs and stolen 40 or 30 plus bases, something like that. He is interesting. He's a little old, all things considered, he's 25 years old and getting his first taste of AAA. He's the only Mariners prospect, is my understanding, to have been promoted to AAA this entire season, which is, that alone makes him kind of interesting because the pitching prospects, obviously all the Mariners, Emerson Hancock, Bryce Miller, whoever is in AA, but them giving him a chance to look at some of the more advanced pitching in AAA, see some of the off-speed stuff, should give us a better idea as to whether or not he is organizational filler or the talent is really there for him to play at the next level. We're not going to find that out this year. Obviously, we joked a little bit about how we'd rather have Cade Marlow on the roster as opposed to like Jake Lamb. That's tongue in cheek because realistically, Cade Marlow is probably not a major league average hitter right now, the same way that Jared isn't. Otherwise, he would be up. But the defense, the stolen bases are really interesting. He has a skill set that could be valuable to this team really as soon as next year. I would put him in the same basket for 2023 as somebody like Sam Haggerty was for 2022, which is to say he's not a big name prospect, but he is a guy who theoretically can play in the major leagues, has real value, and will be getting a chance. You don't pencil Sam Haggerty in front of Adam Frazier, but it works out that way eventually because guys get injured and guys underperform. So Cade Marlow, not a guy you're going to see this year on a playoff roster. Definitely, I think 100% a guy you see sometime next year in some kind of fill and role for this team. Probably, if you wanted me to plug him in somewhere specifically, he is the guy who fills in for Sam Haggerty or Dylan Moore if they get injured next year. So that's his spot, his route to the roster, as it were. But yeah, that's Cade Marlow.
I'll touch on our boy Harry Ford, who the reason for him being on the prospect of the week is that he is currently killing it for Great Britain in the World Baseball Classic qualifiers. He is coming off of games in which he has homered back-to-back games. So that's really, really cool as a guy who is a teenage catcher playing on the world stage. If you guys haven't been following his season, or if you haven't been following it recently, he started off kind of cool. He was kind of a league average hitter in Modesto. So people were, all the excitement was kind of dying down, but he really closed the season on a tear. And ended with a 132 WRC plus in full season ball as a teenage catcher, which is super, super exciting. A 274 average, 425 on base. He walked 18% of the time this year and struck out 23% of the time. So it seems like he might be, in some senses, a true outcomes kind of guy with a lot of walks and a lot of strikeouts. But who else does that is Eugenio Suarez. And Ford is not going to have the kind of power that Suarez has, but he probably has better contact skills.
He might.
Ford did also steal 23 bases as a catcher, which is really cool.
Wow. Yeah. Again, I think they're wasting him at catcher. In terms of his skills. You could put that motherfucker in center field, I think.
Sure,
really
but I think it's interesting that Britain is having him catch too. Because they have no directives from the Mariners. Like, hey, I don't know how it works. Maybe they're telling Harry Ford he has to catch, but I would think that Britain has the ability to form their team however they want. And if they wanted to put him in the outfield, they would put him in the outfield.
Yeah, maybe. It's also what he's used to, what he's done the whole year. And I think you could argue, I don't know, he's a really good athlete, but it's not a great idea to play guys out of position too. But yeah, he's one of the better, in terms of players that are actually good, one of the better athletes to come out of the draft for a while, I think, at least. Might be forgetting someone. So I wonder if they ever move him off. I don't know where they would move him.
Second base.
Especially if framing goes. Yeah, God. Especially if framing goes away because of robot umps. But that remains to be seen. Are we good on Ford?
Yeah, go ahead. Talk about your boy.
Bryce Miller. I just looked it up in the AA Texas League, which I didn't know that the Mariners were in. Bryce Miller ranks 11th in K minus walk percentage. I don't know if that is specific to starters. Doesn't matter though. With a 20.6 K minus walk percentage. Walks are kind of high at about 9%. Strikeouts are like 30%. The reason why I love him so much isn't statistical in terms of like the numbers that he's putting up or his peripherals. It's his pitch traits. I had someone tell me that his stuff plus on both his fastball and slider are two of the best in the minor leagues. This was months ago. And that the Mariners, I know that we just said that they don't really teach grips or anything, but they taught him a sweeper. 97 miles per hour on the fastball, 20 IVB, which is, if you're just looking at IVB in a vacuum, that's plus at a 5.5 release. So that means it's not like a Chris Flexen thing, because the higher your arm slot, the easier it is to generate vertical movement. Because Chris Flexen probably has a 19-20 IVB. He's doing it from a 5.5 release, which is more. I'm trying to think. Maybe no, Munoz is probably lower, but it's pretty low. So he's one of these like new wave guys. He's plus fastball ride. It seems based on his traits, probably plus or elite extension, flat fastball. And then the sweeper is like 15 to 20 inches of sweep at like 82, 83, 84 miles per hour. So if the data here is true, that makes him, the best stuff from that draft class. And that includes Jack Leiter, who was the first pitcher taken, right? Like he's got to be.
Yep.
So this might be like the next elite pitching prospect. And that's why I've been on him for, I think since, I saw this data. So probably about 5-6 months. We should be really excited about him. And I think, we see guys make the jump from AA all the time. Fangraphs has him projected for 2025. I think I would be shocked if he's not here by 2024, and would not be surprised to see him up next year. I don't think he's, based on those names that you rattled off, I don't think he's going to be like the fifth starter. But it might be, he could have some sort of role. So, this is like, what's the idiom? Knock your socks off, blow your socks off.
And he yesterday struck out 14 batters in a start, his last start of the season.
Forgot to mention that. That's insane. And I think one of the things here that's most appealing is that like he can lean on the fastball like, Logan Gilbert does, or a lot of our pitchers really do. But sweepers, as I talked about earlier, like his misses bats, but I think the biggest thing that sweepers do universally is induce weak contact. So those are the two pitches that he's going to lean on, and I think the command is good enough. Remains to be seen how the other secondaries, particularly the changeup, round out, because with everyone it's like, yes, changeup flashes plus, but it's like 40 grade right now, 45 grade. It's like, yeah, everyone's my changeup probably flashes plus. So I think I think for me, the most exciting prospect in the system.
I think if you wanted to look at like somebody else who's kind of made the Bryce Miller career arc, that this year, that would be George Kirby, right? If you wanted to dream on him next year as being kind of like a force, that's the prototype. And the Mariners just did this with a rookie. So obviously Bryce Miller is different, has a different repertoire, is not quite the same caliber of prospect, at least today, that Kirby was before he debuted. But a really interesting trajectory, right? Really, really interesting. And between him and Hancock, I'm much more skeptical of Dollard personally, but I like that they have those two guys in particular waiting in the wings because they could really surprise and be some value that we didn't expect. Anything else for today, guys, or shall we wrap it here?
I'm good.
Yeah, the last thing that I'll say is, like, I think with guys like this, like Miller, and a lot of the guys that we talk about, I think it could change in a hurry. You know, where like right now he's like an interesting prospect. Like, you know, this year, Fangraphs in their 2022 report, I think the updated one, so probably midseason, they ranked him 8th in the system. I think this is the type of guy where like by next year, like mid-year, like he's a top prospect in baseball. So essentially just parting on a note that's like these guys are waiting in the wings, in the Mariners system. We might not know them yet or not think that they're particularly great, but this is what makes the Mariners makes them good at developing, is they identify guys that can do this, and then they help them out, whether it's mechanically teaching them a pitch or which I know is apparently not something that they do. I think Jerry's probably talking more about major leaguers.
Yes.
Or so just tweaks. Like this is what makes the Mariners probably a top 5 pitching development system. So yeah, I think all three of these guys are really exciting.
Well, there you have it. All right. Well, I'm Evan, and you can find me on Twitter at Evan James Audio. You can find Anders at Anders Jorstad. You can find Mikey at _Kuya Mikey. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts, wherever it is you stream. Additionally, please support the podcast on Patreon by going to patreon.com/neversunny in Seattle. I'll have the links to the YouTube, to the Discord channel where you can chat with us. We're getting really, really good conversation, especially on game days in the Discord now. So definitely check that out. Come in, ask us some questions, hang out. It's been a really good time. Other than that, everything's coming up roses for the Mariners. They got to hang together and be healthy, but we got playoffs here in 3 weeks. So I'm pretty excited, and we'll be back.